Try something smart to chew on. The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom. Informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International for Tuesday, January the 30th, 2023. And this is program number 1131 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, in addition to FM radio, that is 101.1 FM, you can also get us at our website. It is rcistlucia.com. You can also download our previous shows on our website in addition to streaming. And you can stream us live on our Facebook page. Just search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International and be sure to like and share that as well with your friends and family. Now, if you want to tell us what's on your plate today in the lunchroom, you can do just that by calling in to 452-3046. That's our mainline number here, 452-3046. And if you've got WhatsApp, in fact, interesting enough, I was looking at a statistic, and only 31% of Americans use WhatsApp compared to the rest of the world, where it's in like the 90s of percentage points. But hopefully you have WhatsApp, and if you do, you can use that app to call in as well, and it is 724-0008, again 724-0008, and you can also message in on that platform as well. Now, we're going to head across now to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought with the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. This all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to my nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Now, of course, for the past couple of months, since October the 6th, the world has been facing the rise in yet another conflict in the Middle East, in particular the area very many people here in the West look as the Holy Land. Of course, it goes by a number of different names, Palestine or the Levant, and it is certainly has been one of the hotbeds of contention for many, many years now, in particular since the establishment of the State of Israel, as a result of the Zionist movement to repatriate and to recreate a state for adherents to the Jewish faith. We've since 1947 and the efforts by individuals such as David Ben-Gurion and the establishment of the state of Israel has existed and continues to exist through a great level of patronage from Western powers, in particular the United States, but also the United Kingdom and others. And we, of course, have noted in the past couple of months since the that October 6th attack by Hamas on a number of settlements and individuals and events that were going on, leading to what is perhaps the largest loss of life in any one instance in the State of Israel's history. And of course, the retaliation to that has not been pretty. It has been very grim. It has involved the Israeli Defense Forces moving into the area, one region that is occupied by Palestinians, that of the Gaza Strip, a very small piece of land, not more than, in fact, smaller than the area of Barbados, somewhere around 140 or so square miles, a highly densely populated area and a very urbanized area. And they have certainly been ongoing in what they deem to be the need to rid Gaza of Hamas. Now, of course, Gaza is in fact currently ruled by Hamas, as opposed to the West Bank, which is the other region that where you have Palestinian occupation, and that is ruled by another party, a more moderate group, whereas Hamas seems to be a far more ultra extreme type of entity in its dealings. Of course, it has a military arm, and they have invested quite heavily in defense by way of tunnels and tunnel systems to get in and out of this territory, and as well being used right now for multiplicity of reasons, including the holding of hostages. Now, the entire matter has raised quite a lot of debate around the world, and particularly because of the shock and awe approach and the devastation that has been brought forward by the Netanyahu government in the wake of this conflict. And we've seen thousands, tens of thousands of Palestinians losing their lives. In the main, it would appear that these are individuals who are in fact not Hamas fighters, and in fact quite a number of children and women as well losing their lives. It has been described by some as genocide, and in fact action taken by the Republic of South Africa, a country that of course went through its own history of apartheid for many, many decades, taking action by heading to the International Court of Justice. That organization has been around for a number of decades, based in The Hague at the Palace of Peace. And in fact, although they have not yet come to their final determination in this matter, some provisional measures have been announced by the judges of the International Court of Justice. And some of them included: Israel must take all measures to prevent the commission of genocide. Israel shall ensure that its military does not commit acts of genocide. Israel shall take all measures to prevent and punish incitement to genocide. Israel shall take immediate and effective measures to ensure the provision of basic services and humanitarian assistance to Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Israel shall take effective measures to ensure the preservation of evidence, and Israel shall submit a report to the court with the measures it is taking to ensure this. Now, many people some have opined that they would have hoped that the court would have gone further in terms of asking for an immediate ceasefire. It did not do this in this instance. Of course, partly because Israel may very well still be arguing that it has a right to defend itself. But of course, we will have to see how that matter continues to roll out at that level. However, there was a press release that was sent out on the 26th of January from South Africa. And it says as follows: statement by South Africa welcoming the provisional measures ordered by the International Court of Justice against Israel. Today marks a decisive victory for the international rule of law and a significant milestone in the search for justice for the Palestinian people. In a landmark ruling, the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, has determined that Israel's actions in Gaza are plausibly genocidal and has indicated provisional measures on that basis. For the implementation of the international rule of law, the decision is a momentous one. South Africa thanks the court for its swift ruling. The United Nations Security Council will now be formally notified of the court's order pursuant to Article 41(2) of the court's statute. The veto power wielded by individual states cannot be permitted to thwart international justice, not least in light of the ever-worsening situation in Gaza brought about by Israel's acts, and omissions in violation of the Genocide Convention. Third states are now on notice of the existence of a serious risk of genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza. They must therefore also act independently and immediately to prevent genocide by Israel and to ensure that they are not themselves in violation of the Genocide Convention, including by aiding or assisting in the commission of genocide. This necessarily imposes an obligation on all states to cease funding and facilitating Israel's military actions, which are plausibly genocidal. Above all else, the provisional measures are directly binding on Israel, which is required pursuant to the court's order and to the Genocide Convention itself to stop all acts by it that are plausibly genocidal, such as those raised by South Africa in its application and request for the indication of provisional measures. There is no credible basis for Israel to continue to claim that its military actions are in full compliance with international law, including the Genocide Convention, having regard to the court's ruling. South Africa sincerely hopes that Israel will not act to frustrate the application of this order, as it has publicly threatened to do, but that it will instead act to comply with it fully, as it is bound to do. South Africa will continue to act within the institutions of global governance to protect the rights, including the fundamental right to life of Palestinians in Gaza, which continue to remain at urgent risk, including from Israeli military assault, starvation, and disease, and to obtain the fair and equal application of international law to all in the interest of our collective humanity. Notably, South Africa will continue to do everything within its power to preserve the existence of the Palestinian people as a group, to end all acts of apartheid and genocide against the Palestinian people, and to walk with them towards the realization of their collective right to self-determination. For as Nelson Mandela momentously declared, our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. The indication by this court of provisional measures pursuant to the Genocide Convention marks a significant historical step towards that goal. And that coming out of South Africa a few days ago. Now, of course, interesting references there and important references to the matter of aiding and abetting acts of genocide. And one can see clearly a very clear volley towards that of the United States. It has been a long-standing supplier and provider of a significant amount of military aid to the state of Israel. One estimate places that over the years that the United States of America has provided in the region of $316 billion US dollars worth of aid to the state of Israel. And in the main, that has been military aid. Now, I think we do actually have a clip available that actually gives some sense of that issue regarding aid. And of course, it's actually from a U.S. source, and it somewhat gives a sort of a justification from the United States perspective as to why there is that extent of aid provided to the state of Israel.
You've probably heard that the United States Israel foreign aid money. In 2020, Israel received $3.8 billion, more than almost any other country. But why does the U.S. keep giving money to Israel, and what does it get in return? For years, opinion polls have shown that Americans vastly overestimate how much of their country's budget goes to foreign aid. Many think it's around 25%. In fact, it's less than 1%, or about $40 billion a year, give or take. That aid falls into three main categories: humanitarian, economic, and military. Israel gets almost exclusively military aid. But this money comes with strings attached. It isn't a cash handout. Instead, it's what's called foreign military finance grants. Simply put, the U.S. is very good at manufacturing military equipment, and they want other countries to buy it from them. So they give those countries money to do just that, kind of like a gift certificate. For example, Israel bought 50 F-35 jets from the United States, mostly paid for by these foreign military finance grants. This money goes right back into the U.S. economy, translating into jobs in manufacturing, engineering, and other fields. Foreign aid is just one piece of a complex and tight-knit military relationship between the U.S. and Israel that evolved out of the two countries' shared geopolitical interests, security concerns, and core values. Israel looks after a stockpile of American weapons and ammunition, which they can also use themselves in an emergency, and Israel helps the U.S. with cybersecurity, anti-terrorist activities, and a whole lot more. That's why some analysts, like Professor Eitan Gilboa, don't think it's fair to compare Israel to other countries who accept billions in American foreign aid. Between 2015 and 2020, Afghanistan, Iraq, Jordan, and Egypt usually received between $1 and $9 billion annually in U.S. aid each. And while each of these countries receives some military aid, they also get hundreds of millions of dollars for economic development and humanitarian assistance, which Israel doesn't. Notably, the West Bank and Gaza received $235 million in 2021, which is entirely humanitarian and economic aid. 2/3 of the money goes to UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees, with the rest going to the Palestinian Authority directly. Because of how Israel is given this money, some experts prefer to compare Israel's aid to American military spending. Consider two of the countries with the most U.S. military bases abroad, South Korea and Japan. Between 2016 and 2019, it cost American taxpayers more than $3 billion a year to keep forces on the ground in South Korea. In Japan, it costs more than $5 billion. America's investment in those countries is very similar to its investment in Israel. It's keeping tabs on potentially volatile neighboring countries, whether it's North Korea and China in East Asia or Syria and Iran in the Middle East. But things weren't always like this. In 1973, America earmarked $492 million in foreign aid to Israel. The next year, that number almost quintupled to $2.6 billion. What happened in between was the Yom Kippur War. In October 1973, Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack against Israel, backed by billions of dollars worth of weapons and ammo from the Soviet Union. In response, the U.S. quickly launched Operation Nickel Grass. They flew more than 22,000 tons of weapons and ammunition to Israel, helping the underdog Jewish state win the war and staving off destruction. Various White House administrations started pouring American money into the Middle East around this time to combat Soviet influence. But Israel stood out. U.S. presidents understood the need to maintain Israel's qualitative military edge, a commitment to make sure Israel has better weapons than its hostile neighbors. The two countries formalized this relationship with a pact called the Strategic Cooperation Agreement, signed by Ronald Reagan's administration in 1981, which aimed to deter Soviet threats in the Middle East. Alexander Haig, Reagan's Secretary of State, summarized this relationship from the American point of view when he said, "Israel is the largest, most battle-tested, and cost-effective U.S. aircraft carrier that cannot be sunk, does not carry even one U.S. soldier, and is located in a most critical region for U.S. national security." In the 1990s, after the Soviet Union collapsed and Iraq invaded Kuwait, the U.S. became an active military force in the Middle East, and again required a strong local ally. Then, 9/11 pushed Israel and the U.S. even closer together. It's easy to see how decades of shared values and goals would cement a partnership between the two countries. But underlying this history is one important fact. None of this foreign policy would have been viable unless the American public approved of supporting Israel. In general, Americans have been highly in favor of Israel for the last few decades. Both Republican and Democratic politicians tend to agree that giving Israel foreign aid is a smart move. That's not to say there's unanimous agreement. Some on the progressive left have recently argued that aid to Israel should at least be conditional. In April 2021, Democratic House Representative Betty McCollum introduced a bill that would deny Israel aid money if it was spent on detaining children, seizing Palestinian property, or annexing land in the West Bank. It's hard to prove any of the money is used for that. Again, it's mostly grants that are to be spent back in the United States. Regardless, the bill is unlikely to pass. Meanwhile, Israelis, for the most part, also approve of receiving U.S. aid, though some critics have argued it makes Israel too dependent on America.
Those businesses in Israel are going out of business because we're dependent on the U.S.
They also point out that the U.S. has a clear interest in selling military equipment to as many countries as possible. That's a fair point. As a side deal to the Abraham Accords of 2020, the United States sold $23 billion in weapons, including cutting-edge F-35s, to the United Arab Emirates. If you look back in history, you'll find U.S. aid is often tied to Middle Eastern peace deals, like the one between Israel and Egypt. But regardless of any side deals, it is very likely the U.S. will continue to ensure Israel has the upper hand in the region. Their relationship is mutually beneficial and popular among voters. As a global superpower, the United States has an obligation to maintain stability, form strategic partnerships with like-minded nations, and stave off aggressive actors. When it comes to the Middle East, that means keeping Israel a linchpin of American foreign policy. You've probably heard.
And of course, some of the takeaways that one would have gotten from that clearly is that the U.S. Citizen seems to think that their government is far, far more generous than it really is. And of course, maybe that is because quite often there's so much debate over the matter of cutting aid or trying to cap these the provision of aid. And the fact that the United States is seen as, of course, a superpower, and it is quite often engaged in a lot of international relations around the world. But whereas people think, the average U.S. citizen, many of them actually think that a quarter of the government spending goes into foreign aid, the reality is it is actually less than 1%. And that is very, of course, instructive. In fact, many times around the world, I think there have been targets set for developed countries, members of the OECD, to try to put their aid, I think, at about 2% of overall spending. And invariably, these developed countries have not been achieving that. But even the money that is being spent, notably, is not really just about development. A lot of the foreign aid deals with maybe emergency crises, and so humanitarian assistance. It's really going into keeping people alive. It's going into disaster responses in areas that may be impacted by natural disasters or drought or flooding, whatever the case may be, earthquakes. That's a major aspect of it. But as well, national security. And quite a bit of it goes towards military spending. And so if you actually look at, for instance, the spending by the United States in terms of aid over the years, you would see, well, there was a massive rise in U.S. foreign aid spending in Afghanistan. It was as high as $16 billion, in fact, in the year 2011. And of course, that has significantly tapered down now since that. And in fact, it's by 2022 was less than $2 billion. And likewise, U.S. foreign aid to Ukraine has generally not been very, very large. Of course, Ukraine has only sort of come around the scene since 1993, since the breakup of the USSR, the Soviet Union. But in the year 2021, as a result of the attack by Russia, the war there, again, that aid has shot up to nearly $12 billion. And so a lot of the aid is actually geared towards national security interests and sometimes tied towards, very often tied towards military action, military aid. In fact, besides Israel being the largest beneficiary to U.S. aid, the countries that have consistently also been major beneficiaries have been the Middle Eastern countries that have generally been friendly or have agreed to be friendly towards the state of Israel, including that of Egypt and Jordan. And so a lot of the spending is tied towards, one can say, some level of stability. And I suppose the Middle East, of course, has been that geopolitical and economic hotspot as a result of oil and gas there. And so you can see where a lot of that money is, in fact, being directed to in fact, be maintaining that situation. So when we think about aid quite often, and this is sometimes a matter that is almost a dirty word for the developed world, that, there's this concept quite often that countries are provided with aid, and a lot of the money ends up doing things that it should not do. And then you look at a situation like what you have with respect to Israel and Palestine. Israel consistently getting somewhere about $4 billion, 3.6, so they're on there per annum. And only of late, really, the Palestinian authorities there getting $250 million. And of course, most of their aid is in fact going towards what we generally will associate aid to be for, which is for the purpose of humanitarian assistance and economic development. That's what most of their aid should be going for. But it's ironic, though, that quite often you hear severe criticisms over the spending of that $200-odd million being put by quite a number of individuals, saying that, look, the Palestinian Authority, they're not spending that money where they should be spending it. And even when, as also has been mentioned, the vast majority of that aid to Palestine is not directly to the Palestinian Authority, it's actually to the United Nations. And for them to be able to do their humanitarian work and assistance in Palestine. But you do quite often seem to get a lot of criticism about that aspect of aid and the suggestion there that it's going towards the funding of terrorism and what have you. But then, of course, on the other side of it, all significant amounts being provided to the state of Israel and, of course, to other countries where there is that national security interest. Now, we actually do have another clip to show a little bit more of a context, but because we're at the point where we're due to take in our weather report, we will end our dish of the day at this time and head across to the weather news.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Want tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. This all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got glassware and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and thin sets, mixers and ground. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's all, of course, on the 1.1. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from between the east and southeast near 13 miles per hour or 20 kilometers per hour, becoming lighter at times. The weather fair to partly cloudy and hazy skies with a few showers, mainly during the morning hours. The forecast for the Lesser Antilles, partly cloudy skies becoming cloudy at times with widely scattered showers over the Leeward Islands. Elsewhere, fair to partly cloudy and hazy skies with a few showers. We now move over to the weather summary. A weak surface trough will continue to cause cloudiness with scattered showers over the northern portion of the region during the next 24 hours. Shallow patches of low-level clouds drifting along. A light to moderate southeasterly wind flow will produce a few showers over the Windward Islands during the forecast period. A plume of Saharan dust will cause a reduction in visibility and air quality across the Caribbean region over the next few days. And this was the weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and thin sets, mixers and ground. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 4523046. And you can also message in to our WhatsApp number. It is 724-0008. So we'll go to the phone lines at
George,
this time
how are
taking
you?
a call. Good afternoon, caller. Good, thank you. How are you doing?
All right, and yours?
Very good, thanks.
Yeah.
And yours?
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Good, wonderful.
Let me tell you, boy, it seems lately, boy, your appetite growing, boy.
My appetite.
You have a good appetite, eh?
Does that mean I'm getting bigger? Okay, maybe.
No. I mean, the dish of the day getting bigger.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I'm not really sorry, but some of these matters do require some,
Yeah, well,
you know, I suppose a larger plate.
yeah, we need to understand them. It's true, eh? But sometimes we need to, my approach is that they have things that we could change. If we focus on the things we could change, beginning with ourselves. There are so many international affairs going around that we could talk about for days and days and days. They're important, But we cannot really, in our neck of the woods, influence these things as we can in our neck of the woods where we have a lot of problems to deal with. So my focus, personally, when I deal with talk shows and things, I try my best to deal a lot with some things that, that will impact on us. That isn't to say I don't touch on these affairs, I do. And I am interested, and I feel our people should, because we're not living in a village and we're living in an interrelated world. However, one of the, you made a lot. You reveal a lot of stuff there, and it shows you that actually the so-called aid they given Israel is actually purchase of defense equipment, is military expenditure for the,
Right.
Indirectly, because they give them the money to buy the arms from America, no?
That's correct.
Okay, and in so doing, they create employment and so on, boost the American economy. So it's both in the interest in terms of military, the defense of the interest, as well as the economy. All right? So I could see that. So it's different from the kind of aid they would give to the grants and whatever they would give to the Palestinians or other countries, which is, unrequited. In other words, what they're giving Israel seems to be requited, that conditional. You buy from us,
Well, some of the other aid has that too, eh? Let's also, when we look at the humanitarian aid,
a lot of it is humanitarian.
It's coming from American farms, American suppliers as well.
Humanitarian.
Yeah.
A lot of it they give the Palestinians and them is humanitarian, but this is where I find it contradictory that you would strengthen the military capability of the tormentors of the Palestinians. So you force them in a position that you have to give them aid and more aid, because the Israelis pushing their backs against the wall more. The capability of getting out of that situation is decreasing as you go along with the more heavy power firepower you give Israel. So that seems to me that that's contradictory, because if you sincerely want things to improve in Palestine for the Palestinians, obviously you would want them to be people that's more self-sufficient and efficient and productive, so that they could at least do things for themselves and reduce the dependence on grants, foreign aid. Understand? But you strengthening the tormentors to force them, into So at the end of the day, now you see that the philosophy of the Americans do it some. That's where these things you see, the real malicious intent when you really study what's going on in these relationships. That's where you see it appears to be white supremacy and racist and so on, that at the end of the day, you not really care. You don't really care about what happens to the thing. You won't allow them to be able to as if the proverbial saying, give them a line so they could fish for themselves. You make sure they never get a line, and you give the people who denying them to get a line strength. You know, so I don't know. So at the end of the day, it looks like it's still the systematic destruction of the people. You know, and it's not just their military interests or their economy. But that said, like I say, we could talk so much about these things that you know, and hear so many different opinions and so on and so forth. And sometimes you wonder, where you know, quo vadis, where we going? You know, at the end of the day. But if you know, spare me a couple of minutes to return on to this our national hero.
So Arthur Lewis?
Calix, one thing that we didn't talk about, and maybe you could opine about it. You think with the new influx of the new technologies, you know, that we're dealing with now, AI, to the extent that we're talking about AI and how, you know, machines have actually usurped a lot of people, human beings, in terms of their jobs and so on,
Right.
to a great extent, because you have, I mean, you have AI, you know, conducting, say, operations medically, surgeries, more efficiently and effectively than even the best surgeons. Sometimes, in certain instances, you have these things already in charge of food production, distribution, transportation, telecommunications, you know, and a host of other things, utilities, you know, the list goes on and on. And as we go along, the capabilities of the technologies are improving at an exponential rate. But does that, you know, that it seems to, like, that kind of, because to Arthur Lewis, when he talk about industrialization, was talking about the industrialization of the time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily that kind of industry, you know. That kind of industry is peculiar, you know. And I you know, even it could, if you really check it, it could make a mockery of even economic concepts that we held as given in the past.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And the value of the labor input.
You know, econometrics take precedence, although econometrics doesn't add anything new to theory, you know. But it takes precedence over economic theory right now. So, you know, nobody writes papers on these kind of things anymore when everything could be explained by formulae and, you know, determined in machines, by machines. So this is the kind of thing we're dealing with, the current world we're dealing with, Calix. And I'm wondering if, yes, we often talk about the success stories of Sir Arthur in the Times, with places like what's his name, Singapore,
mm-hmm.
where you know, you see that the authoritarian thing played a big role in actually that transformation. It worked there. It worked in a lot of Asian economies too, and as well as African perhaps. But it said that it was least practiced in the Caribbean, you know, his home. Anyway, it makes me question where, I mean, how applicable with the new technologies, you know, that we ourselves just come into grips with. We don't even fully, you know, there's so much dark areas in it still, that how much these theories, these economic theories would hold current situation. Anyway,
Uh,
I'll listen up.
Thank you very much for that contribution, caller.
Okay.
And of course, there is that reality that we're facing a new industrial revolution, as being pointed out, and a lot of that is going to be driven by disruptive technologies, as they're sometimes are known as, including things like robotics, artificial intelligence, the whole move towards automation of processes. But then I think the question is, how quickly will you see shifts? And in different sectors, how quickly will you see those shifts as well? I mean, it's happening in nearly every sector now, from law to architecture to engineering to accounting, you name it, production systems. You're seeing those systems coming into play in services and in industry. But the question is, how quickly will we see a shift in many of these things, and how that is in fact going to impact our ability to become more productive as well. But in the meantime, let's just take in a call just to be able to add some more voices to the mix. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom.
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
How are you doing, caller?
Not too bad.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But what I always use to you, in this world, they have so much double standard.
Mm.
You see what's going in Israel, that there's a lot of double standard. And when they had the war in the Wasapa countries, Yugoslavia and all those people, they go and hold those leaders responsible, and they bring them to The Hague, and some of them dead in there, and some of them still there, rotting for genocide.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me?
Yeah, in the Balkans, yes.
Yeah. So why Netanyahu is committing genocide in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and nothing like that talking about? Even South Africa bring the case for genocide, and they almost whitewash that. And Israel is still getting on like a bully. They wouldn't listen to nothing. Not even America that giving them all that money, all that arms they're listening to. So it's like you have a child, you send that child to school, you send that child to college, and that child comes, you're talking, and he won't listen. He won't listen. Israel is not listening to nobody. Then they're doing what they want. And America spoils Israel like a spoiled child with all that money they throw into Israel, and not money alone. You see, Israel, who gave Israel the nuclear bomb? Who gave Israel the nuclear bomb? Israel had the nuclear bomb. And look at where Israel going to put the nuclear bomb. In South Africa, at the same time of apartheid. And when Nelson Mandela come to take over, what America say? We have to dismantle this thing because we don't want that kind of weapon to get in the hands of any black country. But at the time, one handful of people was ruling South Africa. You can give them a weapon like that. So, when Biden say I studying shoulder to shoulder with Benjamin Netanyahu, the world should go and arrest Biden and arrest Netanyahu, bring them to the Human Rights Court in The Hague. You think that would happen?
It's clearly a very unfair situation, and in the mix of it all, too, one has to wonder, where in some countries politicians can get away with certain things, and in this case with Bibi Netanyahu, you've got to feel that he is holding on to this power play, this war, because if it comes to an end, it's the end of him politically as well. But it certainly should never be. We should never have people suffering to the extent that you're seeing right now because of political power and holding on to political power. So it's, I mean, from all indications, it seems to be way overboard, the steps that have been taken by Israel at this point in time. Surely there could be other ways of tackling Hamas, but the way that it is going around it, with this scorched earth type of approach, is really leading to just an incredible loss of life and a very, very unfair situation for the people who have to, after all it's done, they have to rebuild the country. They have to, I mean, and the resources where those are going to come
Judge,
from.
who's going to rebuild the country?
Well, there you go, and that's going to be the big question. And so then when we
people in top places already asking who's going to build it.
And you clearly see that other countries, the neighboring countries, they're saying, hey, we have had our share already. We've got plenty of refugees who are still already in Egypt and Jordan,
almost
and we
outnumber
and effectively
refugees, and yet still the people, some of the dictators in Israel saying Jordan should take some more, Egypt should take some more, put them in the Gaza Strip, in the desert of.
And then you wonder, is this really an attempt to depopulate Gaza? Is this an attempt to try to get these individuals out of these Palestinians who've been living there for hundreds of and thousands of years to effectively abandon their homeland? And is that really the plan? Because this extent of destruction that we're witnessing,
but
is very
after the
unfortunate.
Second World War, most of those Jewish you find in Israel right now, they come from Europe, especially from Germany. And Germany, they're shoulder with Israel as well. After
Well,
they
I think
killed
yes, a lot
6
from
million
Poland,
Jews.
a lot from Poland and also Russia, the former USSR.
Yeah, Russia. A lot of them come from Russia and the Russia country. They are Jews, and they did treat good treatment in those countries. And when Israel formed, they all rushed to Israel. They are not Israeli. If you see Israel, they like exactly like the Palestinians. Those white men.
It is very, ironic that I'm not saying ironic because you see what happened in World War II, significant decimation of a people as a result of the Holocaust, all across Europe. 6 million Jews lost their lives.
6 million Jews.
And
it was Jews. It was what you call the gypsies.
As well as yes, Roma people, gypsies.
Definitely Roma that live on the street,
you had a number
live
of
on the
others.
road, work on farms.
Yes, indeed. And they also suffered as many other groups as well and minorities. But the thing is though, instead of trying to rebuild, instead of trying to ensure, well, how can, and of course, I think there was that attempt through the Marshall Plan, but then the idea that they had to now be moving these individuals. And in fact, it's interesting because the state of Israel is where you have the largest concentration of Holocaust survivors today.
But what's going on there, Mr. Judge?
And the Holocaust is a European.
And if you go
act.
for revenge, where are you going to end up?
Well, and it's not fair. And effectively, what it is it's not fair to be trying to get away from one situation of conflict and Holocaust and genocide, and to now cause genocide for another set of people. So that is the
you find
really sad situation.
You had Franco, you had Pol Pot, you had Hitler. Those people commit genocide in a big way. And when we think it's finished, people get clever. We have AI and we have all sorts of things. That won't happen again. But it's in the mind of human beings. Some, like Benjamin Netanyahu, would they join him with Fopot and those people, Franco and them? Because he committed homicide right now.
Well, let's see what happens, caller. Let's really see what
Anyway,
happens
good
in
afternoon,
that
Mr.
regard.
George.
Thanks very much for your contribution. And it is certainly going to be a very interesting 2024 as we see this matter rolling on. Of course, it is a significant issue in the United States of America. It is having its political implications for the upcoming November 2024 general election. In fact, we would have seen traditionally a number of Muslim Americans supporting President Biden, and they would have been a significant group in terms of certain swing states. Michigan, for instance, has been identified as one of those areas where they were really important to win that state, and there's a big question mark now in terms of whether they will actually even come out to the polls. And that's part of the challenge in any election. It's one thing to be able to get some people to come out to support you, but if they're not coming out, they may not necessarily be voting on the other side, but if they're not coming out to support you, that's really going to be a big blow in terms of getting you over the line. And so I think we're going to have to see how that is going to be playing out, this issue of this Israel Hamas, Israel-Palestine conflict, or Israel-Gaza conflict, and how that plays out at the international level. So, yes, it's true, sometimes we've got no control over this, but we certainly do still have a voice, no doubt, at the level of the United Nations, and we should still have a view on how things should be panning out at this point in time. So it's another matter that I know we can't spend very long on, but hopefully we've given some treatment to it today. And so for the rest of the week, we can continue to have some other conversations regarding how that actually impacts us right here in the case of St. Lucia. Now, that's all the time we have today here at the Lunchroom. We'll be back again tomorrow for another program. Hope you can join us for that. God willing, I'm your host, Calix George Jr., saying goodbye.